Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Daily Newcastle podcast and Happy New Year. It is the 1st of January 2025. I couldn't be spending it with two better people. I'm going to introduce the guests first before I do any sort of introduction because it just feels right that they get to wish you a Happy New Year too. So my first guest with the greatest piece of... Is that a headband? I don't know what that is. It says Happy New Year.
You know I love my headbands, right?
It's brilliant. It's obviously Joe. Joe, are you excited for the new year?
Yeah, I mean, Christmas is my main thing, I've got to be honest. And like we just mentioned before the pod started, gone are the partying days. It's sad times, really. But I'm going to have a lovely curry tonight. Our parents are coming around, and then Nicole's dead excited because she gets to stay up till midnight.
I'll tell you whose partying days aren't over is our next guest, Mr. Iain Mackay. He goes all night long. Lionel Richie, just non-stop. How are you doing, Iain? You looking forward to the new year?
I am looking forward to the new year because I think 2025 might be the first year when I'm not wearing short trousers and Newcastle might win something. That's why I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, Newcastle might win something. Oh my God, I'm excited already. I'm excited already.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a week where Liverpool are now the runaways of the Premier League after Chelsea have been shut down in a blaze of glory. Nottingham Forest need to decide if it's now or never in terms of investing to secure the Champions League, and Newcastle United have given Man United a dose of bad medicine and dominating Man United at Old Trafford. What a time it has been over this Christmas period. Loads of games happening. Quite a big change in the table as well. Look at where we are now. We are 5th in the league, which is Champions League spots, coefficient spots. Do you think we can keep it up? Do you think we can actually stay 5th place? Iain?
I think we can push on from that. I think I'm watching Chelsea having got 2 points out of the last 9. I'm convinced that Nottingham Forest Morgan Gibbs-White will get injured and they'll fall off. And then that'll just put us on the coattails of Arsenal and Liverpool, and why not?
Wow.
Still got both of them to play. Let's get after them.
Joe, do you share the same optimism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, man. We've got to make top 4. Forest, they've been brilliant. Fair play to them, right? But they'll slip away. And like Iain said, we can get ahead of some of these guys, man. Top 3. I'm going third or fourth at the minute. I'm feeling like super confident. I appreciate it's off the back of 5 wins in a row. But sod it.
I was about to say, I haven't got a clue what's going on. I was about to say, we've got 5 wins in a row, 16 goals scored, 1 conceded, went to a cup semi-final, our first hat-trick in 5 years, and we emptied Old Trafford. So it's been a very, very successful month indeed, and it's amazing that just over 3 weeks ago, some people were saying Eddie Howe out, but I'm not going back to that again because I've made my feelings on that very, very clear. Right, well, it's January 1st, like I said at the start, and the transfer window is open. Boom, that whoosh noise which comes on breaking news on Sky Sports. It's open. So what I thought I would ask is who do we want to sign realistically? And our kind of logic behind what we have to work with here for the listeners is £70 million was getting branded around in the summer for Mark Gahey. So I'm assuming if we want it and the price isn't ridiculously overpriced, we can spend 70 million-ish. I don't think you would be offering that type of money for a centre-half in the summer if it wasn't there at all. So we're going to go, our max is 70 million, and I want you to tell me who you want the club to sign or target, but let's say we can sign them as long as it's under 70 million. What's a sensible fee for that player, and why do you want that player? So that's what I'm going to ask you in this first part, and we're all going to pick one each. I don't know specifically in terms of what people are worth, but we just need to justify what we think we get them for. It's a bit of fun. So with a transfer window being open, Iain, I'm coming to you first. Transfer window's open. You've got about £70 million. Who do you want the club to target? Who are you telling Eddie Howe to go and target, and for what price and why?
Well, sorry, Joanne. I think what we need most of all is an elevation to the class of who we've got playing down the right wing. And that means your boy Murphy needs to retake his squad member's spot instead of first choice down the right.
He likes it, really.
I'm not trying to put down what Jacob Murphy's done, certainly in this last month. He's been terrific. Goals, assists, fantastic defensive performance, actually quite unsung yesterday against Man United, I thought. But yeah, I think we need a right winger. In terms of who we were going to go and get, I'd love Mbayu or Semenyo, but I think they might both be very, very overpriced. So my kind of out of left field suggestion would be to go back to Brighton and ask if we can buy Yakuba Minter back for the price that they paid for him, because they're not picking him now.
What a shout that is, by the way, Iain. That's unbelievable. Where's that come from?
I just so disappointed that we didn't get a chance to see the lad play. He did so well. I mean, it's such a great pick initially. Is it the one thing that Dan Ashworth did for us that was what he gets his reputation for, to find him and bring him in for 6 million, 8 million, whatever it was? We send him to Holland, where he's pulling up trees in the Champions League, and then he goes for 33 million to Brighton without even pulling on a Newcastle shirt. I don't think that's right. Right. I'd love to get Elliot Anderson back as well, by the way, but I think he might already have doubled his 30 million price.
You could buy him for 60 if we've got 70, if you think Elliot Anderson's worth 60 million, but I don't think many people will be convinced Elliot Anderson is worth 60 million. To be fair, if you're getting Minter for the money we pay, let's just round up to 35, you've still got 35 left. Is there anybody else you want to mention who you'd be interested in?
Oh, well, why don't we sell Miggy and take the 10 million that's been offered for him and add that to it and go and pay the right price for Mark Gahey, around about 45, 50 million, I think we're getting for that.
Fair. His contract does end in the summer, and with Botman coming back, I think we're better off waiting. Just get him on a free next season, and Botman's back, Kraft will be back. We're covered in that area until Gahey makes that free transfer across to us. Right, Joe. Who's your one, then? £70 million to spend-ish, I'm assuming. Again, the logic is literally just because we offered that for Gahey in the summer. Who is it you're targeting? Who are you telling Eddie to get? How much are you telling him to pay for him? And why do you want him?
Well, it might be a surprise to you, but Iain, but strange enough, I'm also going to go for a white winger. As much as I love my boy Jacob, I have said from the start, I'm not delusional about him. My love for him is very high. However, I do know he's not going to play this way forever. He's literally at the peak of his career right now. He'll probably know that as well. He's going to be a great squad player, and I think he'd be happy to be a squad player as well. So I do not in any shape or form want him sold, by the way. I would happily sell multiple players before him, Miggy included, by the way. But no, right winger is going to be my choice. And I was going to go for Mbeumo because that guy can score goals. In fact, he scores more goals actually than he provides assists, ironically. I mean, so far this year, he's on 10 goals and 2 assists in the league with 1 in the cup. Fairly great record. 9-6 the previous year and 9-8 the year before that. That's a decent record, I would say, for the last 3 years from a player that I think we can get for a fairly decent price. Again, I've got to be honest here. I'm just going to totally pluck a figure out of the air. However, because you've said I've got 70 million to spend, right, I have got it written down that Gahey would be my other one. So we can do a combined deal somewhere in the region of, we're going to spend 70 million for Mbeumo and Gahey. 70 million max. I might like some change out of that, I'll be honest. And we're not even selling Miggy to fund this, by the way.
I think there's no way of Brentford letting them Mbeumo go for anything less than 50. Brentford.
We can negotiate, man.
They're too good at making money. They're a little bit like Brighton.
I know they are. I know. I'm delusional on this one.
You could make Mbeumo your number one target and maybe go for a 55 million pound bid for Mbeumo, which I think would be probably a little bit overpriced, but again, he would get us excited. He would get us off our seats, wouldn't he?
He would get us very excited. All right, 50 million is going to get allocated to Mbeumo. If we sell Miggy, we've got 30. They can have 30 for Gahey. There we go. I don't want to spend too much on Gahey, I'll be honest, but I would still like him because I think Eddie can do so much with him.
Palace could
he's still a great age.
Take almost anything. His contract expires in 6 months. It's either 30 million or 25 million or nothing. Why would you take nothing and have him for 6 months when you could at least get 20, 25, 30 million for a player who's not going to sign a new contract by the looks of it? So
100%.
Yeah, very, very strange that Palace rejected that transfer in the summer, if I'm honest, but it is what it is. I think they're 2 very good shouts. Mine are both right wingers. That tells us where we are as fans at the minute. I love Jacob Murphy, and just like Iain and you yourself have said, Joe, I don't want to take anything away from him. I'd still keep him in my squad. He'd still get games in cup competitions off the bench, starting when we need to rest players, etc. But Mine is I've estimated about £55 million for this player just because he's in red hot form in the last 4 games. But before that, I think we might have got him for 45. But he's definitely had an extra 10 million on him in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Mine's Anthony Elanga. We actually bid for him in the summer on the last day, and we bid 35 million, and Nottingham Forest were like, no way, we want at least 45 million. I think that probably went up to 55 now that he's scored. I think he's got 3 assists and 2 goals in his last 3 games. So he's in very good form. But before that, he was in very poor form. So I think somewhere in his head at the start of this season, it was at Newcastle. He's probably thinking of playing with Isak because obviously we're both Swedish. He was probably thinking of playing with Isak, who's his mate. He was probably thinking, oh, I'm going to go to Newcastle. I'm going to try and get into Europe. Obviously, he had no idea Forest would do as well as what we have done at the start of the season. And I feel like, again, Forest are under PSR constraints because, again, they had to sell us their goalkeeper and buy Anderson. And it was a very dodgy deal, that one, where it was for the benefit of both clubs, but Newcastle didn't want to sell Anderson and we had to buy their keeper as part of it. Very strange. So I think 55 million for Elanga would be, I think, quite a fair price. He's young. I think he's 23, 24 years old. Imagine Eddie Howe with him. So fast. We saw what he did to Dan Burn at St James's Park. If Eddie Howe can get the best out of him on the right and the best out of Gordon on the left with Isak through the middle, my God, that would terrify most teams, wouldn't it? The pace on the wings with Isak through the middle would just be amazing. So I would love to see Newcastle at least try and go in for him. Forest might just turn around and say, no, we're second in the league. We're not going to sell anybody. But hey, 55 million with PSR, can we really turn that down? It would be interesting to see. A second one who has been linked with Newcastle, another right winger, Johan Bakayoko, but he plays for PSV in the Dutch league. I'm very, as I've said many times, I'm very wary of the Dutch league because CM de Jong, Luke de Jong were both brilliant in that league, came to Newcastle and were absolutely hopeless. So I would love to see Bakayoko, and I'm saying this on nothing other than YouTube videos. He looks a little bit like St. Maximin, but works harder. So that gets me very excited when he's just taking people on and flicking it over the head. So I'd like to see him come in. I think the rumour is 35 million for him. So if we can sell Mickey for 10, I can get both them right wingers. And Murphy might have to play left wing. We'll see.
It's a bit much.
We'll see what happens. We don't need 2 right wingers. I'm just being greedy now. Is there any other kind of honourable mentions who you would like to see us attempt to sign? I'll go back to Iain first. Is there anybody else think, there's no price tag on this, but we're gettable for Newcastle, Iain?
Do you know what? I mean, not in the circumstances you've given us to play with. However, I think if this is the transfer window where we shift into a trading club, that we should be moving on Sean Longstaff, Harvey Barnes.
I'll come to that in part 2.
And then I would love to bring in Isak's Swedish striking partner, Guy Koresh, or whatever he's called.
Yeah.
They would be...
that would be a statement.
Yes, that would be a massive statement. And we could afford it.
Yeah. Especially with everybody wanting him. If he then chooses Newcastle, that's a big moment of, they're here to play now. They're sat 5th in the league. We've just signed one of the most sought-after strikers in the world. He's chosen Newcastle. That would be unbelievable to see. However, I do have a little bit of a thing with him. He looks great in Portugal, but he wasn't great at, was it Brighton he was at? I know he hardly got any games, but how can you not get picked at Brighton if you're that good? And then at Coventry, he was very good. But again, it was the Championship. And then he went to Lisbon and he's just turned into a beast. So, hey, maybe it might have just been maturity. And
just
again,
getting on. Yeah, it's just maturity and experience, Kev.
Could be spot on.
Yeah.
Joe, any other kind of maybe ones you would chuck in there? Again, doesn't have to apply by them rules where we've just went into detail, but just people you would like to see us target?
There's no actually one in particular, but the thing I was going to say is that we would need a keeper as well, but I doubt that's going to happen until at least the summer, obviously. Pope just hasn't been the same since his injury. I don't know if he's now got, because you do have, Trafford's obviously an obvious one, but yeah, it's as I say, I didn't really start thinking too much into exactly who I wanted as a keeper, because I honestly don't think there's no chance that's happening in January. But I do think it could be a big thing in the summer, the keeper side of things. Because like I said, Pope just hasn't been the same as since his injury. He almost looks scared to go in certain ways or land in certain ways, which is a massive problem. You can't be like that in the Premier League. You've got to be alert and you've got to be able to dive in any situation or whatever. He saves a lot with his feet now. I don't know if you've noticed. And Dubs isn't the answer. He's been great recently. I'm not going to slag Dubs, by the way, but he has been great in the last few games, but he's not the answer. Plus, he's getting old. So a keeper in the summer, but no, I hadn't put too much focus on January for that one.
The goalkeeper we need is Kelleher at Liverpool, who is up against Alisson anyway. However, they've got Mamadashvili coming in the summer.
Yep.
He's going to be third choice in the summer.
Great point.
So we get him. He's a
Good
fabulous
shout.
goalkeeper.
Or do you be mega cheeky with Kelleher and Mamadashvili being younger and Alisson being 33? Do you go in and say, well, we'll take Alisson off your hands for 3 or 4 years? That'll be a statement again. Just because, again, we can't keep Mamadashvili and Kelleher on the bench. So if we say no to Alisson, which we probably will, we'll laugh that off, won't we? Say, well, okay, we'll have your third choice and we'll take Kelleher. And then they'll be like, okay, so we're not going to give him Alisson, obviously. We're not going to give him Mamadashvili because we just signed him. Yeah, we're probably going to have to give you Kelleher. So that's a great point. My kind of wishful thinking was, and there's no chance of this happening unless I wake up and it's all been a dream. He's on a free transfer. Why not go try and get Mohamed Salah to make a statement? If you qualify for the Champions League this year, do you want a fresh challenge more? Why don't you come play on the right wing for us with Isaac, with Gordon?
Oh
Sell
my
the club to him. Give him 300 grand a week. Give him what he wants. He is worth every penny. Think of the shirt sales. Think of the commercialization in Africa. Oh my God, you could literally turn the Premier League on its head. I agree. There's no chance of that happening, by the way. But that would be one just completely out there for me.
I'm drinking coffee, Kev, but I'll have a glass of whatever it is that you've been on.
I was going to say...
I know there's no chance of that happening. I know there's no chance, but that was my dream one. My realistic ones are Elanga and Bakayoko, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, after an extended part one, I'm sure Zencastr will be very happy because this advert is coming almost bang in the middle of the episode. So we'll be really happy. Of course, it's Zencaster Queen. Joe, take it away.
Cool. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencaster came out the clear winner, with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast, it sounds great, and it's delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencaster.
Fantastic. That was back to her best as well.
There
She's back in form now, just
back
like Newcastle. That's 2 in a row. She needs to make it 5 in a row and a couple of hat-tricks.
The pressure's on.
Right, part 2. Ian's very briefly touched on this. We do have to talk about selling players as well. We have to talk about players who are out of contract. Now, I've done a little bit of research, not too much. I'm going to tell the listeners, I've already told you guys this, and I think you might have made notes. The players whose contracts run out at the end of this season are Callum Wilson, 32 years old, injured. Fabian Schär, 33 years old. Jamal Lascelles, 31 years old, also injured. Jamal Lewis, 26 years old, injured. Emil Kraft, 30 years old, injured. Martin Dubravka, 35 years old. Gillespie, 32. And John Ruddy is 38 years old. Their contracts expire at the end of this season. So, since we're talking about selling, we're going to chuck Longstaff and Armour on in there as well because there's been links for both of them. But is there any of these players whose contracts are running out you wouldn't be interested in renewing and would like to sell? And I mean, again, you're not going to get much money for them, let's be honest, because the contracts are about to expire. Just like we were talking about with Gahey, clubs would much rather wait until the summer and get them players on a free. But Longstaff and Miggy's a little bit different. There's talks of £8 to £10 million for Miggy from either Argentinian clubs or American clubs, North America, South America teams. And then Longstaff has been all of a sudden, December 31st, there was just news about Leeds being interested, Everton being interested. Is that something the club are looking at to kind of cash in now whilst they can? So I guess my question to you is who would you sell or look to sell or aim to sell? And out of them players whose contracts are expiring, I think there's one obvious one, but who would you renew pretty quickly before people can talk to them to sign in January? I'll go to Joe first this time. I guess we'll start with the expiring players, Joe.
Yeah, actual expiring players, so we'll not talk about Longstaff yet, no.
Yeah, I'll come to that in a second. Just out of them players, Wilson, Schär, Lascelles, Lewis, Kraft, Dubs, Gillespie, Ruddy. Who of them would you renew?
Who would I renew? Shea, it's an absolute given because I want him to finish his career with us, by the way. Yeah, so that's just a given for so many reasons. He will naturally start to play less games as he gets older. I think he'll accept that, I'll be honest. But I'd love him to see out his career with us and stay however long that is. but we've talked about how little energy he seems to use in the game, and he probably does have a good few years.
And he's never
because of
relied on
that.
pace. He's never been fast.
Exactly that. Yeah. So the fact that he's 34, isn't he? Is that right?
He is. Let me just double check. He's 33 years old. He was born on December 20th, 1991.
Oh, he's just turned 33. What an idiot.
Just turned 33.
I knew that. I've wished him happy birthday, obviously, in my head. But yeah, so yeah, I would 100% him. Lascelles, I would as a squad player only, but I think you would accept being a squad player only anyway. I might be bang wrong with that because I don't know Lascelles, do I? But I would, I'll be honest. Dubravka's a funny one for me because I don't think we're actually in a position to sell because of Pope's situation. So I think if Pope wasn't injured, we might have considered selling him just to get some money if we weren't planning on extending. Again, sometimes you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, do you? So I think Dubravka's going to stay, but then I'm not sure what will happen in the summer. Like, will he end up just leaving on a free as a result? But I can't see him leaving in the January window because of the Pope situation. I've got to be totally honest with you. Kraft I would keep as a squad player. I like Kraft. I like what he can do for the team. He's came in and he's done a really good job. And if I'm honest, I think he's very underestimated. He was getting a bit of a hard time when he came in the last time, but then proved us wrong in the sense of he was solid and he was a lot better than anyone expected him to be. But again, look, we know he's not a starter, but if he would be happy to be re-signed as a squad player, I'd keep him as well. The rest, I would say go. But then again, Wilson needs to go. It's nothing against him. We love Wilson, but we can't keep someone on the books who never plays. It's as simple as that. Even if he has a couple of months this year, which is looking like we'll get the maximum of a couple of months this season out of him. I don't know. But he'll not go in January. He's injured. So it's a strange one, isn't it? So he's I don't know, unpredictable.
What about you, Ian? Who out of them would you want to keep, and would you try and cash in on any?
On the players whose contracts are expiring, I don't think we've got very much wriggle room. I do think that if there's a decent offer for Dubravka, we should sell him. It's the one chance we've got of raising cash on him. And
yeah, I agree.
I would put the Odysseus, what you call him, the Greek goalkeeper. He's an international goalkeeper. He looked really good for Greece when they played at Wembley against England.
I don't know.
Why not? He's only going to have to cover 3 or 4 games, and then Nick Pope's going to be back.
Hopefully.
Or
I don't know. I think it's a risk, man.
Maybe Kelleher, they get a decent, much better price for Kelleher now than they do waiting until the summer. I don't know. Maybe we do buy a goalkeeper this transfer window. But yeah, I mean, I would hang on to Shah, definitely. Yeah, I would hang on to Lascelles. There's so much. He's Mr. Newcastle, really, isn't he? I think he's a big voice in the dressing room. Kraft as well. I was impressed when he came and stepped in. He's never let us down. How old is Kraft?
Emil Kraft is 30 years old.
Right. So, yeah, 2-year contract extensions for each of those boys, I would say. And then I don't really know what the others are actually doing. Jamal Lewis, he went ages ago. Just an accident.
He went off on loan, and when he's returned from his loan injured. So I'm assuming he's just going to let his contract go, and then he'll be off a wage budget at least.
Nobody's explained to me what Gillespie actually does. He's just got the best job in the world.
Greatest job in the world.
Trains with Newcastle. And I think John Ruddy's just the same, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think
He's
Ruddy's
just
probably got like
books.
a coaching kind of contract. I think that was quite clear at the beginning. He was coming in as like a keeper coach / emergency. If anything, God forbid, happens injury-wise, then he would play like 5th choice. But I don't think he came to play. He's come to pretty much get a career here on the coaching team. I think I agree with you in terms of them players. However, I love Jamal Lascelles, but I wouldn't keep Lascelles and Kraft, because if you keep Kraft, centre-halves wise, you've got Shaw, Botman, Byrne, Kelly, and then Kraft would be 5th choice centre-half. So would Lascelles. So I think if you can get a little bit of money for Lascelles, I know he's pretty much back soon, and I think you'll probably get more money for Lascelles from a championship team than you would Emil Kraft. Maybe
Kraft can cover on the right as well, though. Do you know what I mean? Kraft can cover as right back as well.
He can, and that's why I would keep Kraft over Lascelles. I wouldn't keep them both, and that hurts me to say that because I love Jamal Lascelles, captain of Newcastle, stood up for us when the players were an embarrassment. He was part of that horrendous era, and he was one of a kind of, wasn't a shining light. I'm not going to give him that much credit, but he was a bit of positivity in that dark time where he would come out and say what he feels. He was a very good captain, and I would never slate anything he's done for us. But I think it might be time to try and cash in or just not renew and get him off the wage books. And again, I agree it's the same for Callum Wilson. I love Callum Wilson. Probably one of my favourite strikers of the last 10 years, easily. But if he can't get on the pitch, maybe he just needs a fresh start somewhere abroad, maybe go to Saudi, earn loads of money. But for me, he's our second all-time Premier League top goal scorer, so yeah, he's one of them.
By the time he's fit again, by the way, he won't be the second best Premier League goal scorer because Isak is 5 goals behind him, and he'll score that before Callum Wilson gets back on the pitch.
I hope so. Yeah. But even then, he's still our third all-time top Premier League scorer, so he deserves some sort of send-off. But I agree, it's probably the right time. This episode is going to go on longer, but hey, it is what it is. Let's talk about the players we could potentially cash in on, men. Actually, we'll do that in part 3. We'll go for an advert now with Iain. And then we'll come back to part 3. We'll talk a little bit about some players we could cash in on, and there's a tiny little quiz as well. Off you go, Iain.
And this advert is for all you ladies lying in bed trying to get off to... It's not my fault. It's because somebody said I had a voice that could read bedtime stories. Thanks for that.
You said get off to sleep.
Wow.
I'm not going there.
That sounded a bit naughty.
He does have a fantastic storytelling voice.
Yes.
Yeah. Here we go. Here's my latest story. This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day.
What a voice. What a man. What a broadcaster. Unbelievable. What a guy.
He's some boy.
Yeah. What a legend. What a legend. So, again, like I said, this is going to overrun, but hey, how lucky are you guys listening?
New Year's Day special.
Exactly. We will. We're going to talk about who players we would try and cash in now. So far we've mentioned Longstaff, Miggy, and Iain even mentioned potentially the Greek keeper Oddy. I know he said he would keep him, but that is somebody we could cash in on. He's a Greek goalkeeper. He's an international. Could we get a bit of money for him? I know he's just signed, but he's not going to play. He's third choice behind Dubravka. Could we look to cash in on him? So let's see who you guys would be interested in cashing in on, who's in the squad at the moment. And nobody's off limits here, by the way. This doesn't have to be the players whose contracts are expiring. Just who do you think you could get a little bit of money for at the minute? We'll go Iain first because he's just, like I say, what a guy.
I totally understand, right? I'm not advocating this. I don't want it to happen, but I totally understand if there's some stupid money offered and it's Isak that goes or it's Bruno that goes, because that will allow us to completely rebuild the team, getting 100+ million quid in. I'm not advocating that at all. I think we don't need to do that. We've got plenty of other people in the squad who are expendable, for want of a better word. I've already mentioned Harvey Barnes.
Yeah.
I think Harvey Barnes is an absolutely fantastic backup left winger, but do we really need 40 million quid's worth of backup left winger when Joe Linton could cover there? And we've got young lads. We've got some young lads in the under-23s who play very well on the left. I think that's the washing machine man, Sanusi. I want to see a bit more of him. He's a left winger. So, yeah, I think Harvey Barnes is surplus to requirements. Let's get some cash in for him. He might even have put his price up a little bit with inflation. Not to be too unsentimental, but come on, we've got him for nout. Lloyd Kelly must be worth 10 or 12 million of somebody's money, and he ain't going to get into playing the centre-half once Botman's back, and we've bought another centre-half. So I think Lloyd Kelly should be up. And one other, who was the other one I'm thinking of? Longstaff, but I'll let you deal with Longstaff. If there's actually a Longstaff, he might be a 25, 30 million, which I think converts into us being able to spend 100 to 120 million in the transfer market.
100% profit because he's a local lad, isn't
he? Yeah.
Well, 250% profit technically, but yeah. Joe?
Longstaff was going to be an obvious one. I know we've said Miggy, but I think any of us would easily sell Miggy at this point, but we've been wanting to sell him for quite a while, bless him. He's done his job for us. He's in my eyes, he's kind of done and gone. Longstaff to a degree as well, because Longstaff again has done everything he can do for the club now, but he's still got a lot to offer. I've got nothing against Longstaff, but we've got a lot more. We've got a lot better than him now, haven't we? And he needs to understand, he will understand that he's down the pecking order as a result. And it'll only be injuries realistically that'll keep him in getting any sort of minutes now in the team. But yeah, get some money out of him if we can. It'll be interesting to see if we even give him a 1-year extension, then try to sell him in the summer and get some money that way. I don't know. Obviously, again, I'm just kind of clutching here at a few things, but I would sell Longstaff. Barnes was going to be one I mentioned because we've talked about this so many times about Barnes. That if we could get the money back, or like Iain said, potentially more, because you've got to remember, as much as he hasn't been brilliant or he's not getting the minutes or whatever like this,
5 goals or something.
Exactly that. So he does contribute a lot when he's on the pitch. He's just not getting on the pitch. And like you say, do we really need a £40 million man sitting on the wing when we do have plenty of other options on the left?
Yeah.
So Barnes, I think, is an obvious one. And if I'm honest, Iain, I love your shout of Kelly, especially after the conversation we've just had about like Kraft and stuff like that being backups in the central kind of position. Do we really need Kelly, especially if we've got him on a free? That's just pure profit, isn't it? Gets him off the wage bill as well. I don't know what he gets paid, by the way. I haven't checked anything like that. But
apparently it's 100 a week, but I'll be amazed if that's true.
The alternative to that, of course, is that, bearing in mind his age and the fantastic form he's in at the minute, is that you could sell Dan Burn now for the most you'd ever get for him.
I was going to reply to you guys talking about Kelly. I think Howe signed Kelly is the next Dan Burn. He can play left back. He's tall for a left back. He can play centre half. He's left footed, relatively good on the ball. We haven't seen the best of him yet. I think we're giving up on Kelly a little bit too early, and I think it could age like milk because he could have the next 2 games in the semi-final in Tottenham away and look brilliant. So I think we need to hold off on Kelly. I agree with kind of what you're saying, but it's too early for me. And I think he's the natural replacement as a squad player, left back / left centre half for Dan Burn, because exactly like Iain just said, his age. We love Dan Burn, of course we do. He's been amazing this season, but we have to be more brutal. We should have cashed in on Miggy after that season when we finished 4th, because we would have got a nice amount of money for him. Burns in form, I agree, Iain, is now the time to think, well, look, he's a fantastic player. Do you want to take him off our hands for blah, blah, blah? I think that's what we need to do a little bit more. And I also agree with Harvey Barnes. I remember we did a practice pod, which nobody got to hear, might be released at some point, about who we would keep and sell in the Newcastle current squad when we were practicing to get really good for the listeners. And I said Barnes wasn't for me and non-negotiable. Like we had Bruno, Gordon, and I think somebody else put Barnes in there. I was like, nah, I would get the money back if I could. But he is a great finisher. Just for me, exactly like you have said, Sanusi I want to see more of. We've got Joe Willock. I quite like him as a left winger when Joe Linton's left side of midfield, because for them to interlink and switch really well.
Brilliant.
We've obviously got Gordon, and Joe Linton can do a job there. So there's 4 people who can play left wing. I mean, Isak could probably do a job out there if you're going to sign someone like Guy Goresh and make a statement, or you're going to sign a striker. You could move Isak out wide. I don't think that's necessarily a long-term fix, but for the odd game, it would be suffice. So yeah, I think Barnes could be one we get a little bit of money on.
We've also forgotten, and he's got to go, but I think it's his wages that stop him from being attractive to anyone. Matt Targett. I mean, what is Matt Targett doing? I know
agree.
We saw him come on at right back against Aston Villa, but I think that was a bit of an emergency because Trippier had got hurt. But Matt Targett is definitely surplus to the squad requirements.
100%.
I agree. Right. Okie doke. That is wonderful. We're not going to end it though. You guys are going to get a little bit extra time. We're going to go through a tiny little quiz based around Newcastle United transfers. So I'm just going to give you 2 players and you guys have to pick who went for more, or who did we sign for more money. That's what you need to go off. Okay. Now, what I'm looking at here, it's not euros, but I'm looking at it thinking, well, it might be Euros because that seems unbelievable. So if some of these are wrong, feel free to comment and tell us I'm talking rubbish, but it's just off the internet. Blame the internet. Right. We'll start with, I think is probably an easy one, but you'll be amazed how close it is, I think, even though it is a ridiculous amount of time apart. Who did we buy for more money? Alan Shearer or Alan St. Maximan?
Maxi.
You think we bought Maxi for more money?
Yeah, I think we bought. Hang on a minute though. What did we pay for Maxi?
Maxi was more than 15 million.
Alan Shearer was 15 million, wasn't he?
Yep.
Maxi was more than 15, wasn't he? I thought he was about 18 or something.
I thought 18, but then I had another think and thought that might have been after all of the stuff. If we'd won this and won that, Maxi might be 14.
I've answered now. I'm going to have to go Maxi.
It goes off what we paid, and the correct answer is we paid for Alan St. Maximin 16.2 million. I don't know what add-ons that included. It might have been qualifying for the Champions League, Iain. That might have got a little bit extra money on top of Maxi. It was 40 million, but we ended up paying 16.2. Shearer, we paid 15. So we actually bought Alan St. Maximin for more money, but I mean, look at the time apart. It's not much in it. And Shearer was a record-breaking transfer. That's one Joe. We're going to do 5 of these. Next one. Matt Targett or William Asula? Who did we sign for more money?
I can't remember what we paid for Targett at all, so I'm going to guess Asula, but I'm completely guessing. I've got no idea what we paid for Targett.
I think it is Asula because I think Targett was 12.
I think it is.
And Asula was 15.
12 springs to mind, but I wouldn't have.
Correct. Yeah, it was William Asula. Matt Targett was 13 million and Asula was 15 million. So £2 million more for Asula. This one almost blows my mind because I'm sure we signed him in the same window. John Joe Shelvey or Andros Townsend. There's £300,000 in it, according to this.
What?
I'm sure we signed them. I'm sure it was the same window, which it was to save us from relegation because Ashley was panicking. So we signed Townsend and Shelvey. Joe's going Townsend.
That's a pure guess.
Who do you think it is, Iain? There's 300,000.
Townsend, what do you call him? Townsend's about. Oh, Townsend we sold for 12, I think. I will go Shelvey just to be different to try and get an equaliser.
You've got the equaliser, bang on. Andros Townsend was 14 million and John Joe Shelvey was 14.3 million.
I can't remember us paying that much.
Bonuses. I'm assuming the Shelvey one went to more because there was a promotional clause or something in there.
Yeah.
Or return to a Premier League clause. But yeah, Shelvey went up paying more money for overall.
That's mad.
Speaking of similar transfer windows and similar eras before we mix up the eras for the last one, Obafemi Martins or Damien Duff? Both signed in 2006. One, personally, I love Obafemi Martins. I couldn't tell you why. I just love him. And the other, Damien Duff, who I said at the time wasn't as good as what everybody thought he was.
No.
My answer for why you love Obafemi Martins is that every time he scored, he would do a somersault. I mean,
yeah, it's got to be that, and he was so fast. He was just rapid. I loved how fast he was.
It wasn't just a one somersault; it would be a double.
Oh,
it would be a somersault and return.
He's one of them players where I loved, and I could never defend him and say he was a fantastic player for Newcastle. You look at some of the strikers we've had in our history, he gets nowhere near, but I just love him. So I thought I'd include him in a quiz in case he's ever listening.
I used to think I was hilarious when we had him. Obviously, blatantly wasn't because it was just my awesome cracker standard. But every time he scored, I used to scream, "It's over, baby," instead of "It's over, baby."
Oh my God, that's horrendous.
As if he'd won the match. I know, but awesome crack. As a
Martins or Duff, who went for more?
Right, I think it should be over, but I think it's Duff.
Joanne talking about her awesome crack again. My God.
Yeah, Jesus. This isn't a podcast.
Undeniably,
Joe.
It's undeniable. Right. I think it should be over, but I think it's Duff.
Right.
So that's my answer.
So you're going Duff?
What are you doing? Because I think it should be over.
And
I think it's a trick question.
So, I think it's a trick question. Look, let's. It'd be easy for me just to say Duff as well, and then we'd have a draw, wouldn't we? But I won't. I'll say Oba, so there's a winner.
There is one more after this.
There's one more.
No, I thought you said there was
could be the tiebreaker.
I'll go Oba anyway.
You bang on, Iain. Damien Duff,
Should've
14
stuck with
million
my original.
overall paid, and Obafemi Martins we ended up paying 14.5 after over add-ons and all that stuff. So yeah,
So I was
2-1.
right.
Ian, this is the last one. If you get it right, we can have a tie break. I am prepared. Can
I just say that if Joanne gets this and makes it 3-3, the scoring has been exactly the same as the Newcastle-Liverpool goals in that 3-3 draw.
It
and
has.
Joanne is Newcastle. I'm a bin dippers.
Fair play. We'll move on from bin dippers rapidly.
Thanks for not calling me a bin dipper.
This one, two completely different eras, but hey, why not? Who do we sign for more money or spend more money on overall eventually? Lauren Robert or Dwight Gale? Robert signed in 2001. Gale signed in 2016 after we were relegated.
Robert.
Joe's going Robert.
I love him too much to not pick
I
him.
think Gale was expensive when we got relegated.
Yeah.
I'm going Howard.
I think I've got it wrong.
I'm going Dwight
No,
Gale.
I think I've got it wrong.
I was going to say Howard Gale's a completely wrong era. It is actually Lauren Robert overall. So Dwight Gale was £12 million overall, which is very expensive for a championship club. But Lauren Robert, we ended up spending 12.8 million on after whatever add-ons it was for Champions League.
Rightly so. Rightly so.
Since it's a tie, we'll do one more. Why not? Who do we sign?
Although officially it's a draw.
Oh, we just ended it as a draw.
This is like a bonus point, yeah.
Nah, we have to have a winner. Bugger it. Who do we sign for more money? Papi Cisse or Nick Pope?
Oh.
It's a good one, isn't it?
I'm going
£800,000 in it.
Yeah, I'm going
There's what?
£800,000 difference.
800,000. What are you picking?
I'm going to pick Cisse. Because Nick Pope's 10 million, isn't it?
Ian gets to go first, so yeah.
Yeah, I know. Oh. Well, I've got to pick Pope, haven't I?
You going Pope?
I've got no choice. I was going to pick Cisse, I'm not going to lie.
Ian was bang on, he was 10 million. And Cisse, we ended up spending 10.8 million, which was rounded up to 11.
I would have picked Cisse.
Yeah, 10.8 million.
It was a draw, it's fine.
We'll class it as a draw, that's a loser mentality, but really, Ian won. Really
otherwise, Ian's right. And as Liverpool, he gets... I know, but then you get to win 4-3, and we don't like any of that. That's too...
Well, I've watched too
many
Liverpool.
More 4-3s.
Liverpool do beat us 4-3.
They do.
Beat us 4-3 regularly.
That's the problem.
Anyway, thank you very much. It has been a bit of an extended episode, so we'll just call it a New Year's special, and then I don't have to do much editing, so that's brilliant. Anyway, we hope all of our listeners have a fantastic new year. We hope 2025 is the season or the year we return to the Champions League, dare I say it. Now that we're sat fifth in the coefficient spots, look like we're going to England, so fifth would be enough. But as Ian and Joe said at the very start, we should be aiming higher than that, or we could even finish higher than that. Anyway, have a great new year. You'll hear from us tomorrow because we are the Daily Podcast, with Daily Newcastle podcast. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.